last thing today, Brandon Ingram.
Okay.
The reporting on this is from the New Orleans Times-Picayune, Christian Clark. They don't want to pay him the full 4-year extension, $208 million. They do not want to pay him $52 million a year. And I agree. I don't know if I want to be the team paying Brandon Ingram $52 million a year. I think Brandon Ingram's good. I think there's a role for him in the league on a good team. I think that is possible. But $52 million for him, when you're thinking about aprons and stuff, like he's the class of guy that I would be trying to like carve some money out of that contract for, even if that's not super fair to him. But it's like that's kind of what I would do, and it just feels like he's going to get traded. The question is where.
So Seth Partnow of The Athletic, he does his like player tiers every year, and he explained players like Brandon Ingram really well. He called them like quadruple A players, where they're too good for the minors in baseball. They're too good for the minors, but not good enough to play in a every night rotation for a Major League Baseball team. And that's sort of what a guy like Brandon Ingram is he's got all the qualities of a star, but he's not quite that star. And so you don't want to pay him like a star, right? He's like in between a role player and a superstar. And it's a really hard place for a player to exist. And it's an even harder place for an organization that's faced with the question of whether or not you're going to pay this guy, because the talent is undeniable, but the results have not spoken for themselves, right? You can't sit there if you're the Pelicans and be like, everything we've done with Brandon Ingram has been awesome. The results haven't necessarily been there. I don't know if you're another organization that you could. I don't know if I just have a fundamental misunderstanding of who Brandon Ingram is as a basketball player, but I'll read some of these Bleacher Report trade idea pieces, and it'll be like, Brandon Ingram to this team, and it'll be 3 first-round picks going back to New Orleans. And I'm like, 3 first-round picks for Brandon Ingram and the right to pay this guy $50 million a year? To me, this guy's a salary dump guy.
Yeah.
Not 3 first-round picks. And again, he's a fine basketball player, can hit a bunch of mid-range shots, stuff like that. And I really like the progress he made at the end of the season 2 years ago.
Yes.
And so, as a playmaker, I definitely think that there's a ceiling to hit there. But I don't know. Here's my idea. If we're going to do the matchmaking part of this, New Orleans, I wouldn't pay them. It doesn't make any sense. You've got Trey Murphy, you've got Herb Jones. Get those guys in the starting lineup. Move on from Brandon Ingram. Find a new guy who fits with Zion Williamson. I wasn't early on this thing, and I was probably too stubborn on this, where when they got Zion, everybody was like, well, you got to trade Brandon Ingram because it's Zion's team now. And I was like, well, can we at least see how it works? And I was pretty much on that for a couple of years. I was like, let's just see how it works, right? Because he's like, well, you can't have 2 guys that need the ball. And I'm like, well, eventually you do need 2 guys who can do something with the ball. It can't just be one guy and then a bunch of guys who don't do anything with the ball. But 2 years later, I'm here. It doesn't work with Ingram and Zion. So, again, maybe I was late on it, but I'd rather be late than early. So, in terms of matchmaking bit here, here's my idea.
Okay.
We've got the expansion teams coming into the league, right?
Oh my!
At some point, we're gonna get Las Vegas and Seattle. That's where you put players like Brandon Ingram and Zach LaVine and these guys that these teams don't know what to do with. Send them to the expansion teams. Let Seattle build around Zach LaVine and let Vegas build around Brandon Ingram.
Does he get like is he get a sabbaticals? Like, does he get to like chill at like the former G League Ignite training complex for you? Like, what's the deal here?
No, I mean, you just got to deal with it for a year. You just got to deal with it if you're the Pelicans. But let's get these expansion teams in here. Let's do it quickly. And if you were, let's just do it now. Just do it now. Just do it. And if you're the Bulls, you just get a jail out of free card. You get nothing back for Zach LaVine, but you don't got to pay him. You don't got to worry about it. Not your decision anymore. Congrats. If you're the Pelicans, you get nothing back from Brandon Ingram. You just don't have to deal with it anymore.
This is like donating that jean jacket you don't like anymore to Goodwill. Like, Wes, this is what this feels like.
Brandon Ingram is just a Type 2 trucker jacket that I've had sitting in the bottom of my closet, and I'm just sending it to Vegas. And it's like, I don't need this anymore. I don't even wear this. I don't even need this. I got other jackets that I want to wear. Younger jackets, even. Cheaper jackets.
Jackets that aren't going to cost $50 million a year.
Jackets that don't take touches away from Zion Williamson.
Yeah, I didn't see this coming, Wes, and that's really good. That's really good. The thing with Ingram too is like the teams that like have a reason to be aggressive this summer and trade for him. I don't like love the like if I'm Philly, I want like the OG Anunoby apparently isn't happy with his offer with the Knicks. Okay, I'd be more interested in like OG than even with the injury concerns than I would Ingram. I think.
Yep.
I would be more interested in Paul George. Obviously, I would be more interested in if I'm like the Spurs and I want to upgrade the roster around Victor Wembanyama. I'm trying to trade for Darius Garland or someone like that more than I am Brandon Ingram. Like, even the Hornets, like, there's been like a little. I've seen like some Reddit posts, people debating like, would like you trade the number 2 pick in this draft for Ingram? And it's like, what is that accomplishing if you're Charlotte? Right. Like, I get like you're paying LaMelo and him like a ton of money for what? Like without like there's like so much risk and financial commitment right off the bat, even if it's splashy. It's hard to find like the right fit. The Ringer put this in their NBA offseason thing. His role in this offseason was, quote, every buyer's preferred backup plan, end quote. And like that kind of feels like what this is gonna be. He's gonna get traded for like less than the dollar on the value for a team that didn't get their A+ thing. Like the Cavs don't get what they want. And like maybe they like do like a Garland Ingram thing and like settle for that. Or like the Sixers, like it doesn't work out with Paul George and whatever. They go to Ingram because they have to do something this summer around Embiid.
Yeah, and I hear all that, but then you have to pay him like he was your number 1 option.
Yeah,
right?
We live in there's no room to negotiate.
He wants the money, and I get it. Go try to get it, but man, like I don't know if I'm an organization that he's even my plan B. Right? It's really hard. I'll say this: it's easy to talk yourself into Brandon Ingram as the player, as a fit on your roster. If I'm a team like Atlanta or Detroit or whatever, Charlotte even, like I'm like, yeah, San Antonio, this guy makes sense for our roster from a basketball perspective. But then a year from now, we got to pay him a $50 million salary? No way. There's no way I'm doing that. So I think in the NBA media space, we do this matchmaking thing where like, well, it doesn't make sense here, so it has to make sense here. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense anywhere. And I do wonder if there's going to be some sort of market correction on guys like Zach LaVine and Brandon Ingram who are something less than max players, but consider themselves max players and have enough leverage over desperate teams to maybe get the max from them. So I guess it goes back to what we're talking about with the Celtics. I don't think a smart front office would ever pay these guys that kind of money, but there's not 30 smart front offices in there. So maybe both of these guys ends up on the Wizards. I don't know.
Jordan Poole, Brandon Ingram, and Kyle Kuzma, your Washington Wizards.
Kuzma in New Orleans makes some sense.
Yeah. All right, let me look at the Wizard draw. I gotta find it. Jordan Poole, Johnny Davis, and Brandon Ingram, your 2024-2025
Don't sleep on my guy Corey Kispert here, or Denny Avdia.
Someone good should trade for both those guys and be like 2 second-round picks for Denny Avdia, 2 second-round picks for Corey Kispert. F it.
Yep, 100%.
Those are good players who can fill real teams. So where does Ingram? Where do you think Ingram ends up? Just like you're gonna say Vegas in the desert?
Yeah. Vegas. He ends up in Vegas.
He's just like hanging out. He's just hanging. He's just like becomes like I don't want to make a gambling joke in light of the Jonte Porter situation. Yeah, part of me wants to say like Paul George like swerves us all and goes back to like the Clippers and like Ingram just ends up with the Sixers, but that feels kind of unfair to everybody. I'm gonna go Charlotte just to say Charlotte because I think that'd be weird. I want something weird. I want like something bizarre that we have to grapple with on the show this summer, Wes.
Sacramento.
You know what? Wouldn't I don't know what the trade is or how you figure that out, but like that'd be a team that's desperate enough to roll the dice on that, I think.
It's like a Barnes plus something else for another shot maker. I actually don't hate that fit for them. Somebody's going to have to play defense on that roster. But
Mike Brown's just having a heart attack on the sidelines, I think.
Yeah, maybe a team like that.
Could say Cleveland. Yeah, I think we're going to get something weird with Ingram.